Welcome back to Mariners Down Under. It is your positive look at your Seattle Mariners. This week, we've got a big reason to celebrate. Our number one off-season target has been locked down in the last fortnight. We'll break down what this means for the Mariners, and not just the on-the-field numbers as well with that move. We'll take a look at what other news the Mariners are rumoured to be in on, because who doesn't like some off-season drama? We're also going to break down the Mariners outfield and what that looked like in 2025. We'll look at some key numbers and some key performers. As usual, we'll have an interview with one of our talented young Mariners prospects, and we'll also give you an update on where we're at with our Logan Gilbert jersey giveaway. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So it's a really easy week to be positive this week. The Mariners have made a massive move by bringing back Josh Naylor on a long-term deal. I guess I was always worried that he wouldn't return. He was a free agent after all. But I felt like we had really put our best foot forward and we'd given him the best sales pitch that we possibly could. He seems to love the Kraken. He seems to love the city. He seems to love the people. And most of all, he loves Tucker the Mariners dog. So the nuts and bolts of this deal is it's 5 years and $92.5 million. The interesting parts here are that it comes with a no trade clause and that this deal backs up the verbiage. Real help was a priority, and we found help that made sense, and that help wanted to be here, and ownership made the money work. And sometimes teams get slack for not signing every guy, but it's a business, and business deals just have to work. Josh is 28. At 5 years, this finishes him up at 33 years of age. You get his very best baseball. There's no 37, 38-year-old on $30 million a year that's just coasting through to retirement. This is a deal that actually works. It gets him paid and it gets us value for money. And it showed me that some players, some hitters, do actually want to be here. It's a beautiful stadium, it's a beautiful city, and it's full of great people. So identify the players in your ideal age range. Get them, even as a rental. Make the trades, sell them on the city, on the vibes, on the franchise, and then sign them long term. It's always easier to re-sign a player who loves the city when he's already here, right? So while we are in this contention window, I kind of expect the following to take place. Give the young guys a chance. Colt, Johnny, Ty, Laz, there's some world-class talent sitting out there. But if there's a spot that we do lack, hit it early. We could have had Josh in the off-season last year. We didn't. We're lucky we got him at the deadline. Pay the extra little bit of freight. Get them for the entire season. Just get them here. Build a winner from top to bottom. Leave no holes. Match the young salaries with the old ones. And Bob's your uncle. It's not really rocket science. Have a real crack at winning this thing. Have a window of dominance. I hate to mention the Houston Astros, but you have to admire the fact that they've been able to build, until we ended it this year, but they were able to build a contention window of just dominance of the division. And you win the division, gives you a shot to run the table every year. You're not going to win the World Series every year, but you're gonna have a crack, and that's all we ask for. Just at the end of the day, bring us what we deserve. We just want to get to the World Series. And once we get to the World Series, then we can start wanting to win it. But let's just get there first. We trust our scouting department. The fans show up. The club makes money. And if we commit to winning, like, this thing doesn't have to end anytime soon. We can just keep filtering those prospects through. And, I know I'm going to keep coming over from Australia because it's fun to watch. So a big shout out to ownership and Jerry for absolutely cooking here, getting this done, making it a priority and being so vocal that we wanted Josh back, making him feel wanted, feel loved, feel appreciated. I'm sure that, made all the difference. We went through Josh in detail last week with our infield review of 2025. But the crux is it was 54 games for Seattle. It was a 299 average with us, 19 bags, 33 RBIs, and 9 home runs. Josh also cared about this deal and his shot to win, not just a payday. So there was a bit of a story that kind of backs that statement up. Jerry and Justin reportedly went and sat with him for 4 hours in Arizona. Josh wanted to know about the prospects. The report is he'd already done his homework on all of the prospects, but he wanted to know more. He wanted to know what guys would be affecting the results of the franchise in all 5 years of his contract. So now we have Julio, Cal, and Nails all locked down. We have an elite bunch of prospects. On the bat side, things are looking very good. Now we just need to add a little bit more of that elite depth in the starting ranks, and we're golden. So all in all, it really is a great time to be a Mariners fan. So from a signings point of view, we now turn our attention to the infield spots. We've got Cole Young and Ryan Bliss that have shown us lots in different ways, shapes, and forms at second base. But we absolutely need a surefire solution there if we're going to win a World Series. And maybe one of those blokes is, who am I to say? But we need one of them to step up, or we need to make a move. Apparently Polanco, according to a couple of blokes from The Athletic, the report is that he wants to play out the market. And who can blame him? He had a great year. Cash in if you can. Plus he's 32. This is probably his last chance at a big multi-year deal anyway. But we can't, as a franchise, be holding an empty cup at the end of the day if he goes elsewhere. So we need to know when to cut our losses there. And we need to know when to move on and not put our eggs in that basket. Third base is also empty. Williamson played it before Gino. And we know that Gino is a free agent and he's on the market. We went through all this last week. But there are some big, big choices still to be made. On top of that, we need to add to the bullpen as well. That's just a fact. There was one comment that did worry me from General Manager Justin Hollander, and this just might be my way of interpreting it. This might be just how the report interpreted it, but it had me worried. He said they wanted to add another bat to the club. Now, does that mean one of Gino or Polo? Or is that bringing them both back and it's an additional new one? Because bringing back less than we had last year, I'm hoping for more. So I guess we'll see what happens when it comes to what we add. I mean, I think ownership is saying that people will turn out and you can make money if you have a deep run. So, they've done well with the Josh Naylor signing. They've earned a lot of respect from my side, so I'm going to trust them a little bit more, as we move forward. So last week, I recapped our 2025 season for the infield. We did the starters, the episode prior. Next week, we're going to run through sort of maybe the rest of everyone else or the bullpen. I'll see what I have time to do because we used a fair few arms in the bullpen. Next week, we're going to have our interview with Ty Pete as well. I've just got to do a little bit of editing on his interview, just technology. You know how it is. But work has been really busy. So what did I do? I did what any good boss does, and I delegated. And I sent my mate Ike a message, who's been on a few times now, and I said, right, mate, I need you to take right field on this one because I'm just swamped. It is summer, late spring, early summer over here. Work is crazy. So we're going to get into our 2025 recap now. And then after we've finished our recap, I'll give you an update on where we are with our Logan Gilbert signed jersey giveaway. And we'll have an interview with another one of our Mariners prospects, which you're really going to enjoy as we look to break down pitching and what that looks like from that elite level, more than just us as blokes in the backyard messing around. So I came through with a big time RBI to help me out with this one. This is our outfield recap for 2025. As I said, Ike is joining me, and mate, it was a little bit interesting out in right field. You're going to take that one for us today. So hit me with a couple of guys that spent some time patrolling out there.
Yeah, we had 3 guys generally play in the outfield for us for this year. We had Luke Raley, who was out there for the second most amount of games. He had a 202 batting average with 37 hits, 4 home runs. Unfortunately, he did bring in a negative .3 WAR, but I attribute that to more of him being a bat than a defensive outfielder for us. He had a better walk ratio than he has in the past, but you also have to remember he is getting up there in years, so not the greatest outfield option for us. To start the season, we had Victor Robles out there. He managed to bring in a 2.45 average for us. He only had one home run for the year, but he also had that massive injury to start with in San Francisco, which only let him play 31 games for us. He also had a negative point 0.2 WAR, but again, that I attribute to the lack of games he got to play out there. He is a speed threat in the outfield, though, and the lack of offense he had this year was greatly overshadowed by his spectacular defensive plays. Just one example being that diving catch against Houston.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with Victor is the first thing that we remember from the season was kind of that injury in San Francisco being a catch, and then the last thing that I remember from Victor Robles, in all honesty, was that game-saving catch later in the year. So a couple of interesting guys out in right field and what they were doing. And yeah, I mean, obviously with the limited games and Rayleigh, having a down year on last year, there's probably not too much to cover on those two. I know we'll get to the third guy in the out in right field very soon. Left field, though, was a little bit of a different story. We had some stability there. And to me, I would say Randy Arozarena had a funny year. I say that because he had a good year, but I just don't think that people realise that. I saw a few people on Twitter be like, oh, like Randy had these numbers. Like, where did they come from? And I'm kind of like, well, hello, like he was there all year. I just know that his end of the year and his postseason was really slow. So statistically, the bats struggled in that late stretch. It was a 188 batting average in the postseason. That was the lowest of all qualified bats in the postseason as well, which was really disappointing for what we know he's done in the past. But overall for the season, it was a 4-WAR season, 27 home runs, which was actually a career high. I don't think a lot of people realise that. He also had 76 RBIs. That was the second most of his career. 31 stolen bases was only one off a career high as well. He did have the most strikeouts of his career with 191. Now, granted, he also had the most plate appearances with 613, up from a previous high of 586. And he got flogged all year. There weren't many days off for him. I think that sometimes there's a little bit of talk within at least the content creation community of, does Randy need to DH? He's a bit of a liability with the glove, yada, yada. But, when we had Polanco, who was effectively a DH only. We played can zone through that role as well at different times. Like there wasn't really an option for Randy to do anything other than play out in left field. In terms of hitting, he hit the four-seamer, the sinker, and the slider better than in 2024. The slider did bite him in the bum a little bit in some aspects. So his put away rate on that pitch jumped by about 10%. So both he and Julio had a little bit of trouble with that one. His hard hit rate jumped, which was great to see, but so did his swinging at the first pitch rate as well. I would summarize this for Andy saying that he just got cold at a bad time. And the whole Mr. October thing put a lot of pressure on him. Unfortunately, in the postseason, there's no days off. You've got to play through it. You've got to try and figure it out quickly. There was no option to, put him on the bench or let somebody else take it. You needed to go boom or bust with Randy and hope that you got the boom more than the bust. And unfortunately, we didn't. For him moving forward, he's in the last year of arbitration now. The projection's 18.2 million at pretty well 31. I'm going to say he is out of the Mariners' comfort zone for anything long term. Someone will pay that next off season. We know they will. He has been floated in some wild deals from fans. So who knows what happens at the deadline. But for us to go all the way, Randy needs to be Randy. And he needs to be on our roster in 2026 if we are going to, take another step forward or get back to where we were this year. So I really would have loved for him to come through and have a big moment for us late. But he didn't. But all in all, not a bad year for Randy at all. We know what the glove is. He's carried by the bat. And while 2025 won't be his best ever in some categories, the fact is, mate, he really did come up big. I mean, career high home runs, second most RBIs, one off career high in steals. He really did help us snatch that AL West crown. So no complaints on my end from Randy Arozarena. Let's just get to October again next year. And yeah, hopefully he can come through with a big moment. But a guy that did have some big moments, not in the postseason, but surprised a few people, was Dom Canzone. So run me through what Dom did for the year, mate.
So I would say this was probably Canzone's best year to date. He was batting 300 on the season with 73 hits, 11 home runs. But of those 11 home runs, 3 came in one game. He was good for a 1.6 WAR for us, which that's the positive. That was our main right fielder for a good majority of the season. It's a lefty bat with some pop, which kind of took away from the use of Rayleigh being out there in right field as another lefty bat. He did struggle. He had his little stretch where he went cold. He went down to the minors, and he was absolutely lighting it on fire down there with the Rainiers. And when they brought him back up, he stayed consistent through all of that. Uh, yeah, it was a good year for him out in right field. I would be comfortable saying he could be the right fielder going forward for at least the end of his rookie contract, unless an absolute gem of a trade falls into our lap to take that spot from it.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think when you look down the list of priorities, right field is probably at the bottom of that list. Yeah, we've got what do we do at third, what do we do at second, which we discussed on the last episode. The bullpen is obviously a massive area of concern and somewhere that we need to add. I think it's crazy. We look at Bizzardo, even Vargas for parts of the season as well. He had that stretch in the middle where he was just absolutely nails. Canzone was another guy that I think people really questioned whether he should be on the roster or not, whether he deserved to be within the organization, and he showed up. And I guess I look at tell me if you think this is fair. Like for us, right field was just, it fluctuated this year. It was a bit of a patchwork quilt. I think that probably didn't do the players any favor. But hey, as you said, Dom stepped up and he played a really valuable role for us at different times. So our one consistent for the year, though, was our guy Julio in center field. We all know he's my guy. I'll say it again. I've said it 100 times. But we expect so much from him at such a young age. So this season, he matched his career high with 32 homers. He also stole 30 bags. So that puts him in some rare air. It's him and Bobby Witt Jr. They're the only two that have done this age 24 or younger. He accumulated 6.8 WAR last season. That was 8th among all MLB players, which is crazy because I feel like Julio is spoken about as someone who, he's overhyped, he's this, he's that. I think he's underrated. I don't think the baseball community, really takes into account what he does. Like 6.8 WAR, that's crazy. So that actually takes him to 22.9 WAR over his first 4 seasons. I'm wearing a Griffey t-shirt today. We think of Griffey as an absolute immortal. Griffey had 21.4 over his first 4 seasons for comparison. So, Julio's 1.5, quick boy math off the top of my head, 1.5 WAR ahead of Griffey. He's also just one spot outside the Mariners' top 10 all-time for WAR as well. He's easily going to break into that next season. There's not much really separating 10 and 11. So at a glance for the year, Julio hit 267. That was a 798 OPS. That netted him, as I said, the 32 bombs and the 30 steals that I mentioned before. 95 RBIs as well, 44 walks. It was 309 bases accumulated in total. Now, if you look at his baseball savant, it's a lot of red. There's 90s or close enough for batting run value, base running value, fielding run value, average exit velo, bat speed, range, arm strength, sprint speed, and there's a few more as well. He played a great year. He was thrown nearly everything, about the same as last year when it comes to what pitches are being shown to him by the opposition. His batting average, though, against the four-seamer was down. So it was a 325 average last year. It was a 247 in 2025. The batting average on that sinker also dropped about 70 points. He was about 30 points higher on the slider. but the put away rate was up a little, like we spoke about with Randy before. We saw Julio go down swinging a fair bit on that pitch. His put away rate was 24.5%, up from 17.6 last year. So read into that what you will. When he was shown the cutter, that gave him buggery, a 115 average. That pitch was shown to him just under 10% of the time. He hit 294 against that last year. So that one was the big drop off. He did do a lot of work hitting the sweeper, however, and there were some really noticeable improvements, which was great to see. So he hit 270 on the sweeper compared to 196 last year. In 2024, on that pitch, his K rate was 34%. This season, he got that down to just over 10% on that pitch, which is incredible. His 2024 put away on the sweeper was nearly 25%. This year dropped to 6.9. So awesome work. This shows what some hard work can do. And it was an important change considering that pitch is shown to him just over 10% of the time. So we did also see Julio swing more at the first pitch. When I'm going through the numbers, that seemed to jump up for quite a few players. They're swinging at the first pitch a little bit more. It was a 6.7% jump, though. Some of that might have, not to read into it, no, I'm not here to say why, but that could have come early before reinforcements. When, Julio was probably pressing because so much weight is put on his shoulders. Or it could have come during the postseason where we just needed some big hits. Julio was quoted. There was a quote along the lines about the lineup after the deadline that they rely on each other. And he now feels that, you don't have to go out there and stand in the batter's box and feel like it's all on you. He loved the team. He loved the fact that there were so many guys that could get it done. And this year, from my side, this felt like the first year where we gave him some real protection. It wasn't rolling out a Teoscar Hernandez who didn't want to hit at home. This was a real lineup. The All-Star break, after that, he was huge. Selflessly, he gave up his spot on that All-Star team. We know about that. Putting the team first rather than his own name. So the final 68 games, Julio was among the top 10 hitters in the entire league. In that stretch, he posted a 299, 356, 598 slash line with a 954 OPS. That saw him get 21 homers and 51 RBIs just in that back half alone in 68 games. He did cool down in the postseason. He had some really big moments, but overall, it's another learning experience for him. He's so young. We've got to cut him a break. 208 average, 10 hits in 48 at bats in the postseason. His last game was huge. I do not give a continental about that last at bat. That last game, 2 runs, 2 hits, 6 total bases. That included a homer and a double. For the year, he earned himself his 3rd top 10 MVP finish. He was 6th, just 3 points out of 5th place as well, which, again, had he played like he did in that back half the entire year, that's very interesting. Maybe we're talking Judge, Cal, and Julio fighting it out for first place. So that was an interesting one. But look, Julio is he's a gem of a player. He's a gem of a person. And while I can sit here and say this was up and this was down, the fact is that he really grew as a player and as a person this year. And I feel really lucky that he's on our team. And I'm really excited to see, where he can get to in 2026. So I guess that wraps up our outfield. I guess we'll see what that group looks like in 2026. Just to put you on the spot, Ike, just before you go, we spoke about potentially, does right field get looked at? We've got second base, we've got third base, and we've got the bullpen. If I had to ask you to rank those 4, because as nice as it would be to add Tariq Skubal, I'm not willing to give up Colt Emerson for 1 year of Tariq Skubal when we're not going to re-sign him. So you've got the bullpen, you've got right field, you've got second base, and you've got third base. If you just had to list them from number 1 priority to, nice to have at number 4, where are you sitting with those spots and areas of improvement?
I'll rank the bullpen as the number 1 thing that I would like to see bolstered with some big name talent. We have players down in our minors that can fill the second base, third base hole if that arises, if we don't re-sign Polanco or re-sign Gino. We have players down there that can cover it. maybe not the same bat caliber, but defensively, we can cover that. And then as far as right field goes, like I said, we have Robles, we have Canzone. Either one of those could be rolled out there in right field, and no one is going to say, "Oh my gosh, the ship is sinking. We have to go get an Aaron Judge to cover our right field."
Yeah, I think that the bullpen is we really do need a high leverage arm, but obviously they are volatile. Yeah, they want a lefty as well. So do we get a lefty who is a high leverage reliever, and do we sort of cross both of those off? Do we just go and get any high leverage reliever who's out there? Do we get someone with club control? What's that going to cost? I mean, there's so much there for Jerry to work out. But mate, thank you for jumping on and saving me this week. It's been a busy last couple of weeks with work. It's up early this morning Australian time to get this recorded, and you're giving me a massive chop out with those other three guys. So really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Nate.
So as we can see there, a lot of positives to come out of, the outfield in 2025. And, we're always positive on this show. And while some numbers can dip and some numbers can rise, we always appreciate the guys and what they've done. And every player just goes out there and gives it their best shot every single game. So really appreciate what this team has done. It's been fun to look back on the year. And as always, there's always areas of improvement, and hopefully we can improve and go one step forward next year and make that World Series. So I've had a couple of people message me and a couple of people comment asking where we're at with the Logan Gilbert jersey, given that we've hit 12,000 subscribers, which has just been absolutely incredible. Didn't even think we'd get there when I started this podcast. So it's been so busy that I needed to get this episode out because I wanted to get 2 out before Christmas. That was my goal. And we're also waiting on another prize to come through. So after we've given away the Logan Gilbert jersey, we have a signed Julio jersey that'll be in a City Connect. So I'm just waiting for that to arrive. That shouldn't be too far off, so that we can sort of roll one giveaway into another. So that Logan Gilbert jersey will be given away in the next episode. So make sure you keep following along. About 2 weeks from when this episode drops is when the next one should come out. And then after that, like I said, there's a signed Julio jersey up for grabs. So we're going to move into our player interview now. This week, we're chatting with Mariners pitcher Harrison Kreiling. We're going to touch base with him about where he's at in his recovery from Tommy John surgery. We're going to talk about life as a professional MLB player, and just talk pitching overall. We've had Harrison on before. It's some of the most in-depth conversation that you're going to hear about baseball. He is an incredible resource. And you'll find out a little bit about his side hustle as well, where he can help you improve your pitching game too. So well worth the listen, and it was well worth my time having a chat with him. He's a great friend, he's a great player, and he's a great guest for the podcast. So let's get into it. Today's guest is another one of those blokes who makes this podcast what it is. He was drafted by the Mariners in 2024, and this is now his second time in coming on the show. In his first, we had a deep dive into what those 2 scary letters of TJ mean for a pitcher. We got a first-hand look at that recovery process. He came on just days after his surgery. This time, things are a little bit happier. He's moving, he's up and about, and we're going to talk a little bit about what training and work goes into becoming an elite pitcher. He is, of course, Mariners arm Harrison Kreiling. Mate, again, welcome and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you.
So the last time we spoke, you were in this bionic arm looking setup. You couldn't move. You couldn't do much. Where are you at right now in the rehab process?
Well, the race is gone. The arm can move. So right now I'm throwing one set of 90 feet, 25 throws. We're on our 7th week of throwing, and we're on our 30th week post-surgery. So a ways out. Still a long ways to go, but yeah, just it's been a good process, and we're on the right track for sure, on pace.
So even though you do still have a while to go, there's still some things to celebrate. There's still some milestones that you have ticked off so far. What's the one that you've ticked off so far that's meant the most to you? Because I've spoken to a couple of guys and they're like, just the first time I throw, just the first time throwing a baseball is the big one. What was it for you?
Yeah, man, I had a bunch of guys there with me, all kind of going through the same thing. A couple other minor league guys, and everyone looks forward to the throwing one. So I'm not going to use that one. Obvious, that's an obvious milestone. It's kind of a halfway point too. So it's just kind of it's a cool little barometer. Like, hey, we're coming down, right? We're coming down the mountain a little bit. The main one for me that like was like, okay, we're doing the right things was when I did my first strength testing and all of my numbers were higher than they were pre-surgery. And that's, that's kind of you're sitting there, you're going through the weight room and you're doing some stuff at 50% and you're doing like, you're kind of slowly working all of that strength back. And just to see those numbers be higher than they were pre-surgery is pretty, just, just a good signal that you're doing the right things. And that's the biggest thing for me is we're on the right track and we're doing the right things. So we can just keep going on our way and keep doing the things that we're doing.
So anytime a player has an injury, everyone's different. And I really don't like as a fan when people go, oh yeah, he'll be back in 6 months or 2 weeks, because everybody's body is going to heal differently. A grade 2 strain on this bloke might be different than this bloke. So for you, in this recovery, there's obviously a checklist and there's milestones. And like I said, sometimes things just don't go to plan. Has there been a step through this process that for you was quite hard to pass? Or something that took a little while to work through or get to that led to some frustration for you? Or was it all pretty smooth sailing?
Yeah, I mean, generally kind of in the weight room, you really want to press the gas down, right? Because that's the only thing you're doing. You're not throwing, you're not doing anything. You can't even run for a while. So all you're doing is weight room stuff. And so it's tough when you're reverse lunging, and 1 week you do 285 for 8 and the next week you can't even put 285 on your back. And it's just kind of one of those things that you hit plateaus, your body needs a deload, your body needs a reset, whatever it is, you kind of hit plateaus in certain areas. And it just, the monotony sucks and all of that sucks, but it's just kind of part of it and something you have to work through. And unfortunately, that's probably the biggest one for me that I remember is like, you want to just like throw 405 on your back because that's all you're doing and you can't, like, you just can't, your body can't handle it. So yeah, that's probably the biggest one. And right now it's just like my elbow doesn't feel normal, throwing doesn't feel normal. We're only 7 weeks back and you're throwing very low velocities and you're just kind of trying to get the motion down again, and your elbow, you'll throw one, you'll be like, ooh, that one was a little bit tighter than it ever was before surgery, right? And that's just kind of the stuff you have to work through. There's a tendon trying to function as a ligament now, and there's some extra bracing going on in there, and your body just has to kind of work through those things. But yeah, those are the big things, like plateauing in the weight room, and then for sure, like, the throwing just doesn't feel normal, and that kind of sucks when it's your job and what you get paid to do, but it also is part of the process. And that's been a big help, is having so many guys that are going through the same things. Is you just shoot them a text, you're like, hey man, how you doing? Like, man, I felt tight today. And that's okay. And they're like, yeah, I felt pretty tight too today. And you just kind of build that community and have a bunch of guys going through the same things as you, and you don't feel alone, and you don't feel, feeling unique is okay, but in this scenario, like, feeling like you got guys in the trenches with you it's a good feeling. So that's been the biggest help for that, is like just having other guys going through the same stuff.
So that's the body side of it. Obviously, it feels different because it's been repaired, right? And not to in any way, shape, or form compare myself to a major league drafted player, because I am so far from it. But I got really bad stress fractures a few years ago, and it was to the point where I was just having to, do whatever I possibly could to get through a football game, and I couldn't walk for days afterwards. I went and saw a physio. I started the rehab process, and every time I would start running, as soon as I would feel that little bit of numbness when I would run, I would freak out. And it was this mental block for me. I was like, oh, they're coming back. They're coming back. You spoke about how your body is responding. How about your mind? How have you been with, okay, can I throw? Is it going to snap? Has there been any mental side of this that you've had to work through where you've got to trick or train your body to trust your arm again?
So this is gonna need a little bit of backstory. So I'm gonna set this up. I've always been a shoulder guy. Like the day after I wake up, my shoulder's hanging. I can't sleep on my right shoulder. Like there's just certain things about it. Like my shoulder bothers me more than my elbow. And so if I would have put money on it, the first surgery that I would have had on my arm would have been a shoulder minus 3,000. It wouldn't have even been close. Like I would have bet money on the shoulder. And so now in this process, you're rehabbing the elbow, rehabbing the elbow, forearm strength, tricep strength, bicep, like everything's elbow. And then you go do something with your shoulder and your shoulder bothers you a little bit. And you're not throwing, you're not lifting very heavy with your arm. And you're like, man, am I going to get to the other side of this and then have some shoulder stuff pop up? And that's kind of the big thing that my AT did a good job of, like, it's all good. Like, it's not gonna feel normal, and we're rehabbing everything. Like it's like everything's kind of getting a reset here, and so that's honestly like when I haven't been worried about my elbow at all because rates of like TJs getting back to where they were is pretty good. I went with the best doctor I could that's available. Like the elbow I'm not worried about. It's been more the shoulder where I'm like, if it's bothering me at all, I'm like, okay, you gotta like ease up, you gotta, and a lot of that is like, okay, but are we ever gonna get back to where we were? And that just takes time and takes trust, right? And so yeah, the biggest mental block for me has had nothing to do with the elbow itself, which is maybe a little bit interesting, but yeah, for sure the shoulder. It's
This one might be a little bit silly, and you're probably not in a position maybe to answer this, but you have the communication with the other guys that have been through the surgery. So for the average person out there that hasn't gone through this surgery, didn't play at college, hasn't been exposed to it, when you do come back and you start pitching, not throwing, are there certain types of pitches that you just aren't able to throw from the get-go that are putting a bit of extra strain on the joint from a spin rate or something like that? Is it exclusively fastballs? Because I feel like, Matt Brash came back this year and did a wonderful job, but that slider just wasn't quite 100%. And everyone says it's always the second year back fully from TJ where everything comes back. So has that been a discussion you've had with guys where they're like, oh, I can't wait to throw breaking stuff? And you're like, well, what do you mean I can't throw breaking stuff? Is that a thing?
So I am 99% sure I tore mine on a sweeper, on a slider. So that's, I haven't gotten there yet, obviously. And I'm still a ways away, but that is there's definitely going to be a little bit in the back of your head, like your elbow's already not going to feel normal because it's surgically repaired, and you're going to get back at the 10-month mark or something like that, and they're going to be like, okay, now you can throw sliders, and you're going to be like, wait, what? Like, really? And it's just one of those things where you can't really baby it. You just have to do it. And that's the whole 2 years thing has been a big talking point with them, is like, it's kind of the 12 to 14 months is your standard full repair timeline, but the tendon doesn't actually form into a ligament until 24 months. And it's obviously going through that process the whole time. But so there is always going to be a little bit of like, maybe your command's not quite there. Maybe your velo's a little bit down. Maybe, like you said, your slider's not quite as sharp because you just, when I throw my slider, I supinate it a ton. Like I'm trying to get to the front of the baseball. And so if anything feels a little bit off in there, I might be only able to get to here instead of like obviously it's a mental cue, but like if I'm thinking here and I can only get to here, it's not going to move as much. I'm not going to be able to throw it as hard. So there's a lot of things that go into that for sure. But yeah, the obviously not there yet, but having torn it most likely on that pitch, there is a little bit in the back of my head, and luckily I'm not there yet. So I haven't come across that yet, but when we get there will be a little bit in the back of my head of like, okay, You can do this. It's okay. Take a deep breath. Like, and then I'll throw the first one. It'll feel fine, and we'll be right back to like the normal mental space that we are with that pitch. So it's just gonna take reps, and it's just gonna take time, and that's it was probably the same for you, right? Like you go out and run, and you feel a little numbness. You're like, damn it, not again. And then 2 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by, 6 weeks go by, however long it takes, and one time you don't feel anything, and you're like, wow, like there it is, and you're ready to go. And I think that's kind of how this process is it's like you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not ready, and then you're ready. And that's kind of how any rehab process is going to go. And you have to learn how to trust it, without having that kind of backup like data, like, hey, I haven't thrown a bunch of sweepers in the last 10 months, but you can still throw it. It'll be okay. Your elbow is surgically modified to handle that stress, so it'll be okay.
The difference between us is as soon as I started feeling weird, I've stopped running. I haven't run for a couple of years. The ab has turned to flab, and I'm embracing it, mate. I don't have the resources of an MLB team behind me, and to be quite frank, running is hard work. So I've just given up. So you during your time off, like you've been really busy. So you've launched Kryling Performance, which is a remote training program where kids of a certain age, once they start taking baseball seriously, they can receive a really detailed plan for pitching from you and for strength and conditioning, or both altogether. So talk to me, how did this idea all come about for you? How did this get launched?
Yeah, so my time in college, every off season, I gave lessons to kids. I spent 2 summers coaching at my alma mater high school. There's, I get a ton of enjoyment out of seeing kids develop, and out of seeing kids like almost have that light bulb moment of, like realization of it could be anything. It could be a velo jump. It could be a new pitch. It could be a new way to get hitters out. It could be something in the weight room. It could be something with their nutrition, anything. Like that light bulb moment is something I really enjoyed. And I think that had this not worked out, I would have been volunteering at the local high school or something like that. Like I get genuine enjoyment from helping kids be better baseball players, and I be better at anything, but I am very good at baseball. And so I want to use that specialty to help kids that, like I was a walk-on, I was a catcher in high school. I didn't pitch until college. I made a lot of mistakes along the way because I did a lot of my things on my own, and there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet, and there's some good stuff kind of hidden amongst all the bad stuff. And I just want to be a one-stop shop for kids that are 14 or older to ask me questions, to hop on phone calls with me, to talk about mechanics, to talk about life, to talk about mindset, nutrition, performance, pitching, whatever it is. Like I want to be a resource for kids who remind me of me. I was always a hard worker. I never knew what to do. I never knew how to get from point A to point B, and I probably drew a lot of zigzags and squigglies, but I did get here. And I think I've learned a lot of lessons. And if I can help one kid get rid of one zigzag on that path, then, I mean, unfortunately, high schoolers don't have a ton of time to get recruited, and college guys don't have a ton of time to get better, to get scouted. And I was one of the lucky few. I signed as a senior, as a walk-on, and then I got scouted very late in my career, as like May, my senior year, was the first time I connected with the Mariners regional scout. And then I got drafted in July. So like it all happened very late for me, but if anything happened 2 months later or anything like that, I wouldn't be here. And so there's a lot of kids out there that are very talented, very motivated, very hardworking, that just don't quite have the tools that they need And I want to be that bridge to get them from where they are and where they want to be and where they know they can be. And that's kind of a common thing that I see amongst high schoolers is they're like, I know I have more, but I don't know how. And I like, honestly, on Instagram, my DMs are open. Literally, if you send me video, I will send something back. Like I want to help people, and I know that cost is prohibitive to a lot of people. And but if you do want the full thing, you can visit my website. You can DM me on Instagram, and we can talk about full packages. But yeah, it comes from a genuine love for just helping people that I identify that kind of look like myself back in the day, and just helping them kind of skip some of the BS that I went through, that I tried, that didn't work, that I wasted a lot of time on, and just get right to the nitty gritty and learn what it takes to get to this level. And that's my pitch is like, I want to help people who look like me.
So there's 3 packages or 3 different levels that you can subscribe to. Is this a training program that needs to be done in season, or is it exclusively an off season thing? So if someone's listening to this and going, yeah, I want to get better, but like maybe I've got a bit on, I don't want to overwork myself. Is this something that you're just going to tailor to whatever they've got going on in their life? Can this be done year round?
Yeah, man, the calendar is completely 100% tailored to a player. So if they tell me, hey, I'm throwing this Friday and then this Wednesday and then this Saturday, it will be built around that. Your lifts will be built around that. And your lifts won't be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They will be post high day, post medium day. This will be kind of your low day active recovery. It all kind of tailors towards what you're doing. And so I think that a big thing that a lot of kids overlook is that when you're in season, you can also get better. And when you're like, let's take a normal high schooler, for example, you have 4 years, but really you have 3 because most colleges shut down their recruiting somewhere in that senior year. So you don't get a full senior year of showcasing yourself. Now, you can spend your 6 months of the off season getting better, but then if you just drop all of that in season, you're actually getting worse. You're not maintaining what you had, and you're losing some of what you had before that. And so that's what I want a lot of kids to understand is like, this works in season, this works out of season. I am in this. The big thing that this doesn't work with is bad communicators, because it's remote, because I can't see you face to face once a week in a like private lesson setting. You have to be able to communicate via phone, via text, via email, whatever your favorite form of communication is. You have to be able to communicate with me, because the only way I know something's going wrong, something's off in a lift, something's off in your post throw, and something's bothering you, is if you tell me. And if you don't tell me, you're going to be doing the same exercises. They're going to be bothering you, and you're going to run into problems. So, and the big thing that I want to emphasize is this is never going to clash with what your coach wants you to do. If your coach is like, hey, you have to do this conditioning post throw, that's fine. I have nothing against conditioning post throw. If your coach says you have to throw this far on this day, this will all kind of morph with that. And so like, every kid's different. Every case is different. And so this isn't a copy paste program that I'm sending out to player A, player B, player C, and player D, because they're all 15. I'm not sending the same things to the same kids. Every kid needs a different thing. That's why there's a movement screen. That's why there's a pretty intensive survey that you have to fill out to tell me like what's going on, where are your pain points, what pitches do you throw, how hard do you throw, and then we kind of tailor it completely to you. So that's the big thing I want to emphasize is this is not a copy paste program. I don't have a bunch of built out programs in my drive that I'm just ready to make a copy of and send to you and put your name on it. It's all tailored towards you individually. And if I have to learn something because you're throwing me a curveball, I will learn something for you. Like, I will do my research. I have done my research, and I I just want to kind of cut out a lot of that. You know, kids see TikToks and Reels and Google and whatever, and or AI. AI is a big thing now. Like, kids are getting information from a lot of sources and they have no way to vet it. Well, I'm a professional pitcher. I was a catcher 4 years ago. So I've done a lot of development on myself, on on my own mechanics, on my body, on my sleep routine, a lot of that. Like, I've done a lot. I've gone through a lot of like bad to get to the good. And so just like cutting out that bad part and getting right to the good is it's worth a lot. If I could go back and do it differently, I would have probably had some sort of mentor like person to help cut out the BS for me.
So, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing in young pitchers? Because in my mind, as somebody who's never played, I've never thrown a pitch, and when I have, it's been disgusting. And it's sort of, I don't know, these kids these days, mate, like all of this travel ball, this Little League World Series, then you've got high school ball, then you've got showcases. Like, when you are growing, like I'm quite tall, I remember things hurt, things are moving in your body. There is such a serious level of wear and tear. Is there too much on the schedule for these young kids nowadays? Like, we're seeing it in basketball, we're seeing it in football, we're seeing it in baseball. This is a year round, it's a business now. Is this actually detrimental to the kids? Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing? Is it overuse?
Well, so I have a lot of opinions about travel ball, and very few of them are good. I played a very low level of travel. I was never a kid that you would have been like, oh wow, that kid on that field at 12 years old, he is the pro. He's the one on that field that's going to go pro. I never was. I was probably 5'2" when I was 13, 120 pounds. Like, I was tiny, and I hadn't hit that development phase. And, if someone had abused my arm, if someone had, uh, if I had played 100 games a year, like, I would have hated it. There were already days I didn't want to go, and I probably played 50 games a year when I was a kid. And I just, like, the kids aren't the ones making the money, right? The adults are the ones making the money off the travel ball. And so there's just, been a bit of a de-emphasis on what's best for the kids. And that's the biggest concern for me is like, is it really best for that 12-year-old to play in that World Series where there's 15 of them and to go throw 3 innings on Saturday, 5 innings on Sunday to try to win his team a title? My my biggest so I work out with a couple pro athletes that are down here right now in the off season, and we talked about this. Like, the Dodgers pitcher, Yamamoto, he threw what, 7 shutout innings in game 6 and then came in and threw and closed game 7. And everyone was like, that's the most impressive thing like I may ever seen on a baseball field. Genuinely, like, beyond what Shohei does, that's up there with like some of the most impressive work I've ever seen, because I know how it feels the day after you throw 90 pitches. You do not feel good. You roll out of bed and everything starts to creak. And so that was very impressive. But you know what we also do every Saturday and Sunday? We ask 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds to do the same thing. And so that's definitely a big problem. Overuse, overplaying, honestly. Like, there needs to be more of an emphasis on training, on getting better. And like I said, you can get better playing games, and you can learn the game better playing games. But overplaying these kids when 99% of them aren't going to play past high school, and 70% of them probably aren't going to play in high school, is counterintuitive for sure. And then the other thing for kids that I see is a big problem, and that I see pop up a lot with some of the kids that I work with right now, is like, they see stuff on the internet and they're like, oh, I want to try that. Well, you trying that is fine, But after a week, are you just going to revert right back to what you were doing? There's an abundance of information, and we only have so much time. So I get the impatience. I get the, oh man, I haven't added 5 miles an hour on my fastball this week, so I need to switch my program. But the best way to get results, genuinely, is a single program for multiple years that you follow to a T. That is the best way to get results. And there's just so many distractions now that it's tough to get kids to, kind of almost turn on the tunnel vision. Like, hey, we're like, you've got this dialed in. Like, you don't need to do that fancy post throw exercise. You have a routine. Like, it'll be okay. And we can talk about adding it. But if you add it on your own and don't tell me, then there's this like, are you overdoing it? Are you doing that on a low day when you should be doing more of an active recovery mobility routine? And so there's a lot of snake oil salesmen online that are trying to sell you something, and I mean, I'm trying to sell you something too. So I get it. But like, don't just switch up your entire program because you haven't gained any velocity in the last week. That's not how it works. And it's really hard because I get it. Like, you run into like plateaus and you want to throw a new pitch or anything like that. But there's a lot that it affects beyond just like, oh, I want to add a slider. Well, if I can't get it down, like I have my other 3 pitches. Well, no, it might affect your other 3 pitches in a bad way. And that's where like having this holistic, like one-stop shop is important, because then you can send me it and I can be like, oh, that looks good. Like, let's add that to Tuesday and Thursday to your mobility routine. Or, yeah, that like, let's avoid that. That looks like a little bit too much, or that looks like we have better ways to get the same results. Or you're already doing XYZ that cover that. And so that's where just having that person to communicate with is so important. Like, you like I can tell you, like, hey, we're already accomplishing that same thing. And then that kind of cuts through the BS, right? Like, okay, I don't even, it doesn't need to be in my saved. It just goes away. And as you know, with our short attention spans, it will never pop up in our heads again. So,
So if we can look at your 2026, mate, like, because you're going through your own programs and things are changing for you. What does your 2026 look like? What are some goals that you've set for yourself? Where should you be at by, the next draft? What are some milestones that you've now got to tick off personally?
yeah, man. So unfortunately, there's a lot out of my control. When I go out, when if I'm the starter, if I move to a relief role with the injury and with how different players slot in different affiliates and whatever that looks like, a lot of it's out of my control. My big thing is once I'm released, not released, that's a bad word. Once I get out of Arizona and go to an affiliate, I want to stay there. Like, whether I move up or down, like, I want to stay at the affiliates. I don't want to go back to Arizona. And that could be, forearm strain or whatever, anything little. Like, I want to have that taken care of when I go out. I'm not going to set any stat goals. I'm not going to set any velo goals. I'm not going to set any pitch shape goals, inning goals, because it's not up to me. It's really up to, people who are significantly higher up than me. And ultimately what I want to do is just prove that I belong in this org. And I haven't gotten to throw my first professional inning. So getting that out of the way will be a big monkey off my back, especially I'll be about 2 years post draft by the time I throw my first professional inning. So just getting that off my back is kind of the big thing, and avoiding like kind of result oriented goals, but more like process. Like, hey, like, your elbow feels a little bit better today. Yeah, you gave up 5 runs, but your elbow feels better. Your velo was a little bit better. Your command was like, those are the big things that are important to me. And so, like, as far as ERA or strikeouts or innings goes, like, it's kind of take it or leave it. Like, I want to get out and I want to throw my first innings as a professional.
So I'm assuming you were down in Arizona when the new draft boys came in, and knowing you and who you are, and we've become friends. I'm assuming you've had a chat to a couple of them. So can you give me a bit of because I trust your opinion when it comes to pitchers and players. Who did we draft? Who are some of the characters that we've got in there? Talk to me a little bit about some of the people that you came across down in Arizona that are new to our organisation that people might not have, had the time to get to know like you did.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will like kind of describe the setting for you. So it's definitely like rehab's on its own schedule and the draft camp is on its own schedule. So we're a little bit segregated in that aspect. But I got to know like Griffin Hughes and Isaac Lyon and a couple other guys that a lot of pitchers again in this draft. I talked to Kate a little bit. But yeah, there's Luke Stevenson. He obviously went to UNC, so he's got the Chapel Hill connection, which is where I'm at now. But yeah, there's a lot of arms that were very impressive. Carson Kelly, we talked a lot about college football down here while he was down here, but he obviously did really well for Everett this year, and he's got a crazy arm angle and throws super hard. So what some of those guys do, it's just like it kind of moves the bar. Like it's just so impressive, and it makes you want to get better. It makes you want to push yourself even more watching those guys throw and seeing how good those guys' stuff is.
You mentioned Kate Anderson. I've been a Colt Emerson fan for a long time now, and unfortunately, I reckon Colt Emerson's been pipped by Kate Anderson as my absolute. I will sell my soul to get him on the podcast kind of person. Did you get to see him throw, or even if you didn't, give me the full report on him, because this is a guy too who, it hasn't. His road hasn't been easy as well. He's had his own triumphs and tribulations to go through. Like, give me, because like I said, if I ever want to know anything about pitching, you're you're my number one person to come to. Like, who did we draft? He just seems like an absolute weapon.
Yeah, man. Obviously, so I didn't watch him throw at all this like after camp, but I mean, you're watching the College World Series, you're watching regionals, you're watching those with a bit of a draft eye, especially with the Mariners having the third pick. And man, just like I watched him, I watched Patrick Forbes, I watched, it seemed like they were going to take a pitcher, and you're watching a lot of those guys, and he just, there's nothing. It's not like he's schemed, like he's not running up there throwing 102, but it just the pitchability is incredible. It's off the charts. It's he throws 4 or 5 different pitches, and he throws them all for strikes, and he throws them all to both hands, and he has the same scar as me on his elbow. So he went through that and obviously came out the other side a significantly better pitcher. And so there's a lot of stories like that kind of give you life, like as you're going through that process, like, hey man, like you're going to come out of this better if you just put in the work. And I mean, he's obviously an embodiment of that. Like he put in the work through the Tommy John and coming out of the Tommy John, and obviously got himself paid and got himself put in an organization where they're going to develop him very well as a pitcher. And he seems like a great guy. I am working out with an LSU guy right now, and they have nothing but good things to say about him. And obviously Christian Little was in my draft class. Nothing but good things to say about Cade. So he's going to work hard. He's going to shoot up the affiliate system, and I have no doubt he's going to succeed in this org.
If I can have a look now at some guys on the other end of the scale, there's a guy that we unfortunately saw in Max Scherzer. There's the likes of Verlander. There's DeGrom. There are these players, right? And you mentioned before these young kids, there's too much information. There's TikTok. These guys were probably stone and chisel. They were dealing with less information, but they have just kept dominating no matter what age they're at. How do they do it? How does a player become so elite for so long, even when the velo drops and the body changes? Like, you're a baseball purist. Is this just purely, like you said, having a schedule and a routine and sticking on that year by year and not getting caught up in all of this new flash stuff? Like, how do you stay in this game for a long time?
I love that question, and I honestly I don't have an answer for you yet because, as I'm this age and going through this surgery, like this whole rehab process, it's, different things. You wake up in the morning and something hurts and you're like, man, how old am I? 23? Like, really? And so watching what those guys do, it becomes even more impressive when you are trying to emulate them and when you are trying to do what they do. And Scherzer, like, I think everyone's a little bit different. And Scherzer has the psycho mentality, and it's something that I will never understand. I will never be able to tap into because it comes off as like you being kind of an ass, but that's just what he taps into in order to compete at the highest level. And some guys have to do that. And that's never something I'll be able to do because, like I said, like I won't ever be able to tell my pitching coach to F off. And because I have this inning, but that's how he does it. And, with DeGrom, like he's gone through multiple injuries, 3 or 4, like ones that end multiple careers, and he's come out the other side, and like the start of the season was one of the best starts in his career, and the dude's won 2 Cy Youngs. Like, it's one of those things where there's all this new stuff, like guys are throwing sweepers at the highest rate, guys are avoiding fastballs, guys, starters are trying to throw 6 pitches and whatever, but then you look back at it, and these older guys are doing the same thing they've always done, and it keeps working. And so I think there's a lesson in that. Like we don't always have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to getting hitters out. And that's ultimately our goal as pitchers, is just to get hitters out. It can be strikeouts, it can be ground outs. It can look however it looks. We want to get hitters out, and looking at the best at that is the best way to go about, emulating guys. And yeah, I have a ton of respect for what those guys do because I have no idea. I have a feeling I'm going to be falling apart by 30. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, those guys, I assume they have incredible maintenance routines, incredible strength and conditioning routines. And by incredible, I don't mean they're throwing 700 pounds on a bar. They have very fine-tuned routines that are built for them and built to help them out. And as you'll see, like, they're all different shapes, they're all different sizes, and they still make it work. Like, anyone, no matter how tall you are, no matter how heavy you are, no matter no matter what, you can, if you're a pitcher, you can compete. And it's not about height, it's not about weight, it's not about size, it's not about arm length, it's not about any of that. It's about getting outs. And I think that's a good lesson, is like your pitchers look like a basketball team, right? You got the 6'11" centers, you got the 5'11" ride guys who would be point guards on a basketball court. Like, we come in all different shapes and sizes, and a lot of us are able to get outs at a high level. And so that's the big thing with them, is like they probably have incredible routines that just I can't even imagine what that looks like. But yeah, that's what I would go with, is that it's got to be some sort of like perfect routine that is just everyone's reaching for.
So I want to ask you about our starters. I feel like our starters, like the numbers are the numbers. 2024 was just historical for our starting rotation on the big league club. And this season wasn't so. And when you really break it down, like, each of the pitchers besides Castillo at different times had injury issues and interrupted starts to the season or middle of the season. And some of the pitches that they were throwing just never got there. So Can I ask you a question? When something isn't working in season, like let's just use a slider for example, if it's just not moving how it should move and it's not making sense to you because you haven't tinkered with it, it's one of those fickle things. Can you change that in season? How do you get your command and control back? Or do you just kind of have to ride it out because you're obviously, if it's not working, you're still expected to go out and throw 80 to 100 pitches. The elbow's still sore. You don't want to overwork it. It's not like you can get in the lab for 2 hours and figure this out.
Exactly.
Like what do you do? Because I feel like these guys got some unfair criticism. People just expected them to fix it like that. But like you said before, if you're releasing there, but you think you're releasing there, and that's because of the injury you had in the off season, and you rushed back, or it never healed 100% because baseball's grueling. Like, what the hell can you do during a season to get yourself back on track?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I have thrown max in my career 50 innings in a season, and those guys are asked to throw 200 plus as starters. Like genuinely what they do is very impressive, because it used to be like the starters were the soft throwers that go out there and throw 3 times through the order, and then you bring in your flamethrowers in the back end. And now starters are expected to throw 5 to 6 pitches, but also throw high 90s, and a lot of our guys do. And yeah, I mean what they do is very impressive. I want to start off with that. And I genuinely I hope that I can do that one day. I hope that I can throw 150 plus innings and just be fine. But the reality of it is you're never 100%. And the best pitchers are going to be able to still get outs on their C days. And like there's a famous quote, I think it's Smoltz, but out of 30 starts in a season, you're gonna have 10 A days, 10 B days, and 10 C days. You're gonna feel great on the A days. You're gonna be blowing fastballs by hitters. You're gonna have all your pitches, and on C days, you're gonna feel like crap. You're not gonna have slept well the night before. Some of these guys have kids. Like, you gotta think about that too. Like, I have such a dialed in sleep routine, but the moment a kid gets thrown in here, like, there's no way you'll ever have a dialed in sleep routine again. So also, like, add that into these people are humans. These people have lives. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, you get on that tarmac at 3 a.m. Yeah, they're flying private, but it's also 3 a.m. and they have a game the next day. And like, they don't get just to, okay, we get back at 6 a.m. We get to sleep all day. Like you do probably if you get back from work or whatever, or you have a conference or whatever that looks like. They don't get an off day the next day. They got to go be ready to throw. And yeah. And as you said, like, the work in season is very mental, because like you said, like, if I'm throwing 100 pitches every 5 days, my catch play cannot be another 100 throws. It cannot be my bullpen can't be another 100 pitches on the mound. Like, those bullpens are tidied up to like 15 pitches on the mound. And that's start of the season. Later in the season, you're banging bullpens. You're just trying to get through. And you kind of saw that with Wu a little bit, like, just kind of like had the peck and race to get back, obviously. And I'm sure he's still feeling it a little bit, but he did what he had to do to get back for the postseason series, and that's impressive in itself. But the work has to be mental, and it's mental in a way that you're gonna have it. Like I'm struggling with the slider, but what you don't want to do is have to prove it to yourself physically before you bring it back. So like, if I'm a starter in the big leagues and I throw a fastball, a slider, and a changeup, and I'm struggling with the slider, I'm just not quite getting it down one day, and it's getting hit around a little bit, it's not moving as much, whatever it is. I can't sit there all week and throw 50 sliders a day. My arm won't be able to handle it. I won't be ready for my next start. So what you can't do is, okay, next outing, I'm throwing my warm-ups and I still don't have it. It's still not working. You can't just fully abandon it. You have to continue to throw it. And it might be now, it used to be your 0-2 pitch. Now you have to throw it when it's 0-1, when it's, in counts where it makes more sense to lose a pitch. Like if I have to lose a pitch here, like it's okay. Let's throw a slider. And you just have to trust that it's going to come back. And these guys have thrown thousands of sliders that are good, but we're all perfectionists. And so I throw 10 that are bad, and that will outweigh the 1,000 that were good in my head because of recency bias, because we're all perfectionists and it has to be perfect off the hand every time or else it's going to get hit or whatever. And so the big thing for me in a season is like you can't just go overthrow it. Like I've done that. I've had an outing where I threw 70 pitches and then thrown later that same day. You can't do that. Like that is not feasible, and it's quite frankly very dumb to do. And so, and then your next day is a very light day if you throw. Like you can't go out there and rip sliders. And so there just has to be that trust in the back of your head, like, hey, we're going to figure it out. It's okay. It doesn't have to get figured out right this second. We're going to figure it out. You know how it feels. And that's where a lot of like journaling comes in. Like, hey, today my slider felt good. Why did it feel good? What kind of cues was I using? And then can I take those into a game? Like, hey, get to the front. Like for me, like get to the front of the baseball. Am I throwing it like this? No. But feeling it get to the front keeps me from flying open, keeps me from, getting on the side of it, like whatever. Like that's my main cue. And I know that because I have it written down in a journal. And if I ever lose it, if I ever am not throwing my slider very well, I have that to go back to and kind of fall back on. And that's why writing down your thoughts, your feelings is very important, and being able to kind of lean on that in tough times is important. And Wu talked a lot about in Shove Camp, like he talked a lot about like journaling and gratitude and breathing and meditation. Like that's where he gets his kind of that fallback plan, right? Like when something goes wrong, like we got this fallback plan to kind of use. And that was a very long-winded answer. But yeah, I mean, these guys are human. They have doubts. They have like ideas that they're not living up to their contract, that they're not living up to the expectations that they've put on themselves or that fans have put on them or whatever. And that can compound very quickly if you start listening to outside noise, if you start believing everything your head says, because our brains are imperfect and we have to kind of tailor them in a direction that best suits us. And we're all neurotic, we're all perfectionists, like I said. And if you're a fan, like I implore you to understand, like those guys are way more mad at themselves than you could ever be at them. If you're like, there's been a lot of talk about like death threats in DMs and talks about family, like, like really bad stuff. And I don't want to highlight that stuff, but like that, like for me, that fan will never be as angry at me as I am at myself for how I'm performing. And so whatever you're doing, gambling money or rooting for a team, like that player, whether you think they're human or not, they are human. Just because they make a ton of money doesn't make them not human. And at the same time, it's like we're all hyper competitive, hyper fixated individuals on one specific thing. And you have to understand like any frustration you have towards them, they're feeling that frustration 10 times more, 100 times more. And they have no outlet. They can't go on Twitter and express their frustration. They would get torched, And so like we're human. We are also frustrated. And, I don't want to lump myself with them because they are way above and beyond where I'm at right now. But like putting yourself in their shoes for just a second would help a little bit just to ease the tension. Like, what if you don't deliver your deliverables by Friday, or you deliver them and they're wrong at work? What happens? Are you on TV? Are you on national TV with millions of viewers? Or does your boss just say, "Hey, I need these fixed by Monday"? You have to understand, like, your work, you don't have that frustration built in because you're not as passionate about it. We're passionate about it, and we're frustrated because we want it to work out so bad, and we want to provide for our families, and we want to be good husbands, and we're traveling all the time, and we're sleep deprived, and whatever, and that's the human side of it, right? And those guys did a great job gritting it out, and they got to a place where only 4 teams make it every year, and they're gonna be ready to reload next year, and every single one of those pitchers has gone home, and they have a plan to be better for 2026. Will that work out for all of them? No. Some of them will get worse. Some of them will have worse 2026 seasons. Some of them will have better. Some of them will have similar seasons. But all of them are trying to get better. And trying might not be the best word because all of them are completely tearing down what they've done in the past and rebuilding it back up in what they believe is a better way. And they're spending money to get this done. They're communicating with their network and all this stuff to get better at what they're doing and to return to form for 2026. And I just, yeah, like the human side of it's so important. And those guys are just as frustrated as fans might be with how they, some of them with how they performed, and they'll be ready to rock next year. Like there's no doubt about that.
Sometimes I think, yeah, the life of a big time pro athlete isn't as glitzy and glammy as it looks. We make a point, and I've said it a number of times on this show, like we make a point of not counting another man's bread. But a player did get signed this past week, and it's very public what they signed for. And yeah, there's some people on Twitter and whatnot talking about the money. I was like, my friend, let me introduce you first of all to taxes. That's not all his. So therefore, that big amount that people are thinking is what? Potentially halved. And then you think about, potentially you mentioned being a dad. I mean, I had a Ty Pete on last week, and he's like, oh, we could do the interview a bit later, and, it might work out like a little bit better with your times. I was like, mate, I've got a 3.5-year-old. If she's not sleeping, she's going to be interviewing you. Like you don't get time to yourself. You don't get time to rest, to sleep. And the time they sacrifice, like my daughter spends half her time with me, and I feel like I miss out on so much. These guys are traveling. It's not just the X amount of games they've got to play. It's the travel days. It's the training. Then it's the off season, and just some of the behavior from people. Out there, just it needs to be called out. And my personal opinion is like we have to do something with gambling. Like something has to be done because it is driving such an evil message towards the players from fans. And that's why I try and bring everyone a gift. I try and give everyone a handshake or a hug, or just say like, mate, like I'm here. Like I genuinely don't care if we win or lose. And I don't say that because I don't care about the Mariners. It's just the Mariners are a blessing in my life because I have so much going on. But for 100 and X amount of games, I get to listen to that. I get to escape from reality. And it's that joy that the players bring that I don't think they understand. And, we're not all bad out there. So you mentioned, about these guys and their routines and breaking things down and rebuilding. Just again, mate, before 2 things before we wrap up, but just let people know, like, where can they find you? Where's your website at? What's your Instagram handle? How can people get in touch with you so that they themselves can break down and rebuild and become the best version of themselves as pitchers?
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is Kryling Performance. My last name is Kreiling. I'm sure you will have that in the description, but I also have a TikTok with the same name. And then my website's in my Instagram description. And you can DM me, you can email me, you can click on my website and submit a form. There's multiple ways to get in touch with me, but yeah, I mean, let's start the process. Like that's my message is if it doesn't work out, if I don't believe that this is the best thing for you, I will not take your money. I will not take you on as a client. I will provide you what I believe is best for you, and we can go our separate ways, and I can continue to be a resource for you in the future. But for now, like, I want to take on a specific amount of clients, and if you don't fit that description, then that's totally okay. I will provide you with what you need, with what I believe that you need, and I will send you to one of my contacts, or I will provide you with what you need and what I believe you need. And just, if you're 11 years old and you're like, hey, like, I want a little small workout routine at home, like, shoot me a DM. Or if you're a parent of an 11-year-old and, hey, like, this guy's a spaz, like, I want him to do something, sport specific, like, I'll give him a little 15-minute routine to do 3 times a week. Like, this is not a one size fits all. This is not a pay me and then I will provide you a service. Like, that's not what I want this to be. I want to build relationships. I want to build, trust. I want to build a community of players that are like-minded individuals to myself. And yeah, I love working with kids. So I'm very excited to get this going, and I've got a couple guys already right now that I've enjoyed working with. So yeah, that's where to find me, is Kryling Performance on Instagram.
It's a good service. It's something different, and I think it just speaks again to, a lot of the guys we've had on. Like, everybody just wants to help. I had someone reach out to me about a player who we were hoping to have on, and then we've just kind of, like, we had our Instagram shut down and we just kind of lost contact. But anyway, the story was that their son needed a glove ready for a tournament, like, ASAP, and they took the glove and they used the steamer in the locker room and they got that glove ready, and this little kid is suddenly ready to play. And it's all of these things that, as a Mariners organization, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is why we have the fans that we do. And you've made an impact on this kid's life, and they're a fan for life. And if they're able to tap into you, even if it might not even be helping somebody get to the next level, mate, it might just be helping somebody enjoy their high school career.
Absolutely.
And then they go into finance, but they remember their high school career because they got a little bit of advice and structure from you. And instead of hating it because they're getting tonked over the fence all the time, they're like, oh, remember that game I had like 8 strikeouts? And that's a core memory they're telling their mates around the water cooler. So yeah, everybody make sure that, if you know somebody or you yourself, need a little bit of assistance, get in touch with Harrison. But our final one, mate, and we asked you last time you came on, but is there somebody that you would recommend for us to have on the podcast? And again, it's that same caveat of whoever you recommend, you've got to help us create that link. Who do you think's worth a chat for us?
Man, I gotta add. Have you had Matt Tiberia on?
No, I haven't.
Okay, that would be I was the 17th rounder in our class. He was the 18th rounder, so right after me, and he's going through his second TJ. So he's probably got some similar stories to myself, and we were rehab buddies for a lot of this year. We both went out to Modesto together for the very short time that I was out there, and he's a good guy. So that would be my next recommendation, and he's on Instagram too. So he should be a good, easy reach out for you.
We'll make sure I get in touch, mate. But I want to appreciate your time. This is the second time you've come on. There is going to be a third, because we're absolutely going to want to touch base with you, as you start to get a little bit closer and you start to get back. And, you're now our 4th returning guest. And I know there's a lot of other people that want to return as well. And this is just what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a space where, you can come on, you can share your story, your brand, and, just feel comfortable. So thank you so much for all your time this morning, mate. Hopefully everybody has gotten so much out of this. You break down pitching at such a high level and turn it into, oh, well, that guy, he didn't throw well today, and you turn it into the reasons as to why. And I think if we can have more conversations with people like you, people can understand more about what athletes go through, and hopefully people can be kinder to athletes as well. So
100%.
Thank you so much for your time, mate.
Yes. Athletes are humans.
They damn sure are, aren't they?
Yes.
All right, so a big thanks again to Harrison for coming on. Like I said, really good friend of mine, somebody who I really, really value his opinion on just everything when it comes to baseball and really helps us break down pitching. We've been really spoilt in the last couple of weeks. You know, we've had Austin Kitchen come on and talk to us about postseason pitching after he was with the big league club on the taxi squad. We've had Harrison break things down today. We're just really, really grateful and lucky to have this community of players willing to come on here and share their experience. So again, Logan Gilbert jersey will be given away next week. Make sure if you aren't following us on TikTok, you get around us on TikTok as well. Sure to make sure we build our platforms on both fronts. But want to thank you all for tuning in again. I love talking Mariners baseball, and the fact that you've chosen to give up so much of your time to listen to this episode is really means the world to me. So as always, stay safe, stay well, and go Mariners.